Here in Vienna, we currently have summer, allegedly, but it's raining for weeks straight. And then you have a look at the Apple weather forecast, and it tells me sun and crystal clear blue skies. What are you up to? What are you talking about? But anyway, I have been doing photography now for about 5 years. And over these 5 years, I have amassed terrible habits. And these habits I want to talk about in today's video. And I kept the single worst habit for last, so stick till the end. And I would say, let's get started. So the first really bad habit is bangers only. I know it's super exciting to take photos where just everything works, from the composition, the subject, the light. It's all perfect, and it's really the photos we want to take. But the bangers only mentality has a few substantial issues. First of all, the bangers only mindset sets unrealistically high expectations. Personally, I take maybe 10 photos a year that I would truly consider bangers, or in other words, images that I'm fully happy with. If I judged all my photo walks by whether I came home with a masterpiece, I would feel disappointed like literally 99% of the time. And that kind of pressure can kill your motivation and leave you feeling like you're not making any progress, even though you're actually growing through just going out and showing up and shooting consistently. Second, bangers only limits when and how you shoot. If you're only aiming for bangers, you'll likely only go out when the conditions are perfect, like golden hour, dramatic light, maybe fog, or occasionally snow. And sure, that might lead to a few great shots, but it stops you from exploring how to shoot in all conditions. Overcast gray skies, harsh midday sun, rain, or even night photography. And if you avoid all those situations, you'll miss out on learning how to adapt and how to shoot in any conditions and how to truly grow your toolkit as a photographer. The next bad habit is to not have a safe storage system. And I can tell you, I am until this day guilty of not having a storage system that actually safely keeps my file and makes sure that I'm never ever going to lose something. The first mistake is to choose big and cheap hard drives for storage, but the drawback is that they often tend to be super slow. If you're editing high-res photos or video, speed matters arguably more than capacity. And slow drive can make apps like Lightroom lag or overheat your Mac. And in my case, for instance, I find it super hard to actually find my files on my Lightroom catalog because they don't load fast enough, because my hard drive is in fact very, very, very slow. So invest in a fast SSD for anything you're actively editing. And the second mistake is to skip backups because you think your drive won't fail, or that it's very unlikely that your drive is going to fail. But trust me, it's not a question of if these hard drives are going to break, but it's a question of when they're going to break. That's why I am right now in the process of investing in a NAS so I can back up everything I don't need on device while keeping only active projects on my SSD. And by the way, if you have any NAS recommendations specifically for photography, then drop them in the comment section down below, as I would truly appreciate it. And now that we're already talking about storage, let me introduce today's video sponsor, which is Clean My Mac. And Clean My Mac is my go-to all-in-one care solution for keeping my Mac running smoothly. With just a few clicks, Clean My Mac can clean out junk files, scan for malware, improve your Mac's speed and longevity. For example, I recently found a whopping 25 gigabytes of clutter in my system that I didn't even know was there. It also offers excellent malware protection, giving me peace of mind while I work. What I also love is the personalized advice from apps that need updating to ones that I haven't used in ages and I could probably delete. And the My Clutter feature might be a game changer. It helped me spot dozens of duplicate files and prevented me from actually backing them up to my NAS, absolutely wasting space. And the best part, Clean My Mac doesn't just clean your Mac. It also works with your SSDs and external hard drives, and the Space Lens tool gives you a detailed map of how your storage is distributed, which is fascinating to explore and makes it super easy to keep your storage clutter-free and organized. As a creative working with huge file sizes, Clean My Mac has been essential for improving the longevity of my Mac. And if you want to try it out for yourself, then check the link below for 10% off using the code PIT2025. Thank you so much to Clean My Mac for sponsoring this week's video. And now let's get back to bad habit number 3. And bad habit number 3 is to compare yourself to others. We live in interesting times where digital innovation has given us the possibility to connect with everyone all across the globe. So I can see what other photographers do on a completely different continent. I'm probably talking right now to you, and you're probably sitting somewhere in the United States. But comparing yourself to others can be incredibly destructive because of 2 main reasons. First of all, it pulls your focus away from your own creative journey and pushes you to react to what others are doing instead of following your own vision. You start mimicking others rather than creating, and in that process you tend to overlook how far you have already made it in your own journey. I permit to take myself as an example. My YouTube channel is still relatively new and I'm actually growing pretty fast. But sometimes I catch myself comparing my growth to creators who are ahead of me. And when I do that, I forget or I omit or I ignore how far I have already come. Probably much further than most people ever will on this platform. So how do you stop? The most powerful mindset shift is this: compare yourself only to your past self. Look at the photos you took a year ago, then look at what you're creating right now rather than measuring yourself externally. You'll notice real progress, and especially in the first few years, that progress is massive. So focus on that and only on that. And I know it's really hard to stop comparing yourself to others, so if you can't help comparing yourself to someone else, look constructively what you can take from these people's work and adopt in your own work and eventually make you a better photographer or creator. Let's get to bad habit number 4, which is emphasis on gear and too much gear. And I can tell you, in my first 2 years of photography, probably 3, I have focused 80% of my efforts to gear. And beyond that, it also extends to, for instance, what videos I was watching on YouTube. Because instead of watching tutorials that would actually help me bring my photography further, I would just binge watch gear reviews. And of course, the algorithm would then always again suggest gear reviews to me. And luckily, I got to a point where I got the courage to click I'm not interested and to watch, for instance, videos on photography by Simon d'Entremont and other amazing creators who actually show how you can improve your photography beyond just gear. And especially here on this channel, I really try to keep the balance 50-50 between photography tutorials and gear tutorials. And I would really love to even do more than 50% photography tutorials, but generally speaking, they are so much harder to make. And that's another reason why you have so many creators that just talk about gear, because it's super easy to set up these videos. So while I love gear and technological innovation in general, be it cameras or phones, for instance, don't forget your creative pursuit and why you started photography in the first place, which is to go out and take photos. So stick to that and do not become a victim of an overemphasis on gear. And adjacent to the point about gear, the last bad habit I have is to not go out enough and shoot. It's very easy to just stay at home and watch gear reviews or in general watch YouTube tutorials, but in the end, photography is a craft that you just learn by doing. Developing your own style and your own preferences is something you do through trial and error, through actually going out to shoot. Getting good at photography is a bit like acquiring a driver's license. Yes, you can pass the theory test, but does that mean that you can actually drive a car? No, because you've never actually sat in a car and learned how to drive it. And that shows that theory and practice are often not the same thing. And in photography is the exact same thing. You have these amazing photography resources, but in the end, photography is still a craft that you learn in practice. Is there any other bad habits that I might have missed? Let me know in the comment section below. And previously I told you how you should not adopt a bangers only mindset and go out and shoot in any conditions. And if you want to learn how to shoot in dull, gray, boring lights, then I invite you to check out this video up here. And with that being said, thank you so much for tuning in, and I hope to see you soon. Bye.